Sorry. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Marie Guy. I'm head of the Social Sciences and Humanities Institute of the CNRS in Paris, and I'm very glad to welcome Elisa Broccoli, Rachel Mine, and Milena Vukmirovic. Okay, for this afternoon session dedicated to urban transformation and heritage in the light of political and societal issues. We'll first listen to Elisa Broccoli, then to Rachel Mine, and finally to Milena Vukmirovic. Elisa Broccoli is a PhD student in archaeology and post-classical antiquities in Florence University in Italy. She is also a research assistant on the GPI Deep Cities project and honorary research fellow at the University of Stirling. And her research interests focus on early medieval Europe, building archaeology and digital heritage. So I will leave you the floor, and I'm very happy to listen to you.
Merci beaucoup. Good afternoon. I am Elisa Broccoli, and research fellow at the University of Florence for the GPI Deep Cities. And I'm here on behalf also of my team, Michele Nucciotti and Andrea Biondi. It is a great pleasure for me to be here, and I thank the Symposium committee and organizer to let me be. And a great opportunity to introduce you the project, the international team I'm working with, and the work we are going at University of Florence as part of it. Cities are constantly changing. As such, cities are composed of added historical layers that over time transform into heritage, which merits conservation. And however, practitioner and user not always agree on what is to be protected, mainly in the case of fragmented heritage structure, sometimes losing sustainable source for cultural values. So how should we manage this transformation? What heritage we should preserve? Deep Cities propose to create a sustainable urban environments through heritage, considering not only economic but also social sustainability. The historical transformation can be, in fact, a resource for an inclusive and conscious urban planning practice with cultural heritage. An international team of experts is working to deliver tools to drive the stakeholders in reaching this result. NICU, the Norwegian Institute for Cultural Heritage Research, UCL, University of Stirling, University of Florence, and Universitat of Barcelona, led by the project leader Torgeir Guttormsen. As mentioned, the urban landscape is a multi-layered reality, and this built environment is a dynamic element which changes across time and space. Used by different communities, it has been modified, demolished, adapted to different needs in a long process of making and remaking. Therefore, what we observe today and we define built heritage is a palimpsest of stories and values. Revealing these stories, these time-space changes, thus deeply understanding the historical continuity of the place, together with the unfolding of the multiple value in a city, may help drive urban strategies for both the heritage preservation and the sustainable additions of new layers. Furthermore, the Deep Cities aims to demonstrate with empirical research the innovative uses of digital technologies for the operationalization of a plural vision of heritage for the design of a desirable city. The project's main objective is in fact to develop a management toolbox drawn from cross-disciplinary expertise and collaboration between partners and based on a cross-cutting research for comparable analysis in Norway, UK, Italy, and Spain that integrates conceptual solutions defined by participatory approaches, online and offline, through innovative digital heritage modeling. The YP4, the University of Florence, is developing this toolbox with the collaboration, of course, of the other project teams. And it also provides a sustainable tool to model the material changes across time and space of an urban area, revealing its layer and so its past stories. This tool is the light archaeology, a methodological approach characterized in its essence by the archaeological study of historical phenomena on a regional scale. In light archaeology, the territory is explored through non-destructive archaeological methodologies, mainly building archaeology and landscape archaeology, for the analysis of the interpretation of built urban environment. The team, led by Michele Nucciotti, an international expert in the field of light archaeology, is modeling the urban transformation in the case studies of Italy, in Florence, and of UK, in London and in Edinburgh. We are modeling the material changes at two levels: an architectural level through so-called stratigraphical observatories, so selected building whose historical layers reflect the urban transformation of their urban area. And also at an urban level, through a new methodology that makes the archaeological and historical research in site easily accessible and visible to the urban decision maker. It is a GIS-based tool built on definition of unit of space and their percentage of soil occupation, so space imprecises documented time phases. The Millennium Square is an experimental methodology born within the Deep Cities framework by an idea of Michele Nucciotti during our research of the San Donato case study in Florence, Italy. It offers a visual representation, a snapshot of the material changes observable in a given area during a millennium, highlighting in particular if this transformation affected the surrounding urban landscape and its built environment in time and space. This is the Millennium Square of our case study in Italy, the San Donato neighborhood, a peripheral area of Florence and the context of a fast-changing and intense urban development from the mid of the 20th century. On the vertical axis, you find the time, a millennium, to which we added also the last 21st years, and on the horizontal axis, you have the space, so all the units we have identified, where the size of the polygons represent its percentage of soil occupation. On the right are the primary sources used to map the units, so cartography records with geometric references, and the color indicated the destination of the units. Just to give you a broad idea, the big red unit is the Fiat factory, which was built in the area in the 1938. We can easily follow its life till its demolition starting from the 80s. And on the today timeline, we can identify a little red square, the so-called Fiat Tower, which is the only surviving remain of the Fiat complex. However, how can we put the past, so the discovered layer, in the future, and how are this urban transformation perceived? The University of Stirling team, led by Chiara Bonacchi and now at University of Edinburgh and Shea Jones, developed a combined methodology of participatory methods, online and offline, to capture people-centered value of urban heritage and the urban transformation perception in the deep cities case studies. In Florence, we replicated this methodology, prior applied in the UK study, for comparable analysis. We are still processing the data collected, but this partial analysis already offers interesting insight of the perception of urban transformation in the area and some value, highlighting also the efficiency of the tool we are building in our project for our toolbox that will be available at the end of this year. And it also highlights the impact of our projects, since some stakeholders, as the municipality of Florence, already asked us to replicate these methodologies in other areas of Florence. The image shows a part of San Donato area timeline with one of its hallmarks, the medieval church of San Donato in Polverosa, dating the 12th century. This is the most ancient element of this urban landscape that in the early 19th century became the library of Villa Demidov, here on its left, a neoclassical villa built by the Russian Prince Nikolai Demidov. And the church was reopened just in the 60s of the 20th century when the area underwent a deep urbanization. The church gives the name to the area, which is not an officially district of Florence. It's just a part of the district of Noboli. What is interesting is that while from offline interviews did not emerge a particular attachment of people to this church, some local association and online communities named themselves using San Donato. And we have San Donato Association, San Donato District, and this denomination is also supported by the municipality of Florence. The church seems to have regained an identitarian role for this community. It was the historical nucleus from which the area was born in the Middle Ages, and in the same way, so not as a secular but as an ecclesiastical district, it seems to represent the core of the new area and the only element, an heritage one, that unified this territorial identity from the 60s. However, as mentioned, this value is not clearly perceived by all the members of the community, and the disconnection of views in its past might have played a role in this, as the fact that it is constrained by the modern buildings. Another interesting value that seems to emerge is the contrast with the Florence city center. It is an area out of any tourist itineraries that does not fit in the romantic imaginary of the historical city of Florence. It is unknown to most of the Florentines, and some of them consider it not Florence. Also, its industrial past with the Fiat factory does not help in this sense, even if its erection represented an important industrial and economic phase for the entire city. Our historical and archaeological research in the case study unveiled instead a millenary hidden story of this area, which can partially mitigate this misconception, bringing to light new heritage values. Later on this month, we are going to open also an exhibition, Reflection on Heritage and Urban Planning, Deep City San Donato, which present in an artistic form, photography in particular, some result of our research. And we decided to launch it in the Florence city center to affirm that nobly that San Donato is Florence, re-adding in some way this area and its heritage to its city, to Florence and its inhabitants, the Florentine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you all agree, we'll ask questions after the three talks. So now I'll leave the floor to Rachel Mine, who is an architect. She graduated in 2018 as a building engineer at the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam. And in this school, she specialized in restoration and transformation of heritage. And she kept on through various internships, and afterwards she recently graduated for a new diploma in architecture, this time at the Technical University of Delft. And she will tell us about a methodology for designing user experience-based public spaces.
Well, thank you. Welcome to my presentation, which is about the methodology for a user experience-based design of the public space, the case of V&D Haarlem. So, urban public spaces provide opportunities to interact with the community, and to prevent these from being lost, it's necessary to shift the focus to the total experience, including the routing and the public spaces. So, for the research, I developed this methodology, which is to design user experience-based public spaces. And therefore, I used the existing theory of Jan Gehl, which is called the 12 quality criteria concerning the pedestrian landscape. However, it wasn't clear how to implement those criteria to support actually design decisions. And it was explained that the last criteria was working as kind of an umbrella So that one is the positive sensory experiences. So for my methodology, I want to explain how you can actually use those criteria to support design decisions for designing user experience-based public spaces. And I used a case study to develop this methodology. And the case study is a former department store called Vindy, which is in the west of the Netherlands, in the city of Haarlem, which has 235,000 inhabitants. So as you can see, there's like a map of the city of Haarlem. And the former department store was built in 1934. It's listed as National Heritage, and it's vacant nowadays for over 5 years. So the first part of the methodology is actually to do some analysis at city level. And in conclusion, all the routes of the public transport, the cyclists, pedestrians, tourists, are all coming together just in front of this former department store, which makes it like the most important junction of the whole city. Since it concerned a historic city center, it's also really important to actually understand the historical layers of this place. As a result, you can see the different functions, transformations, and valuations in one overview. So this place started as a canal, and it transformed during the years into a square with monumental trees. But eventually, it had ended up as like a traffic intersection of this beautiful space in Haarlem. And during its function as a department store, it was experienced as a public space due to the community, because the ground floor and the rooftop were really important gathering points for the community of Haarlem. So the result of my research is the interrelated quality criteria. And since it concerned like a historic city center, a number of quality criteria were already present, which are feeling secure, opportunities to see, scale, enjoy the positive aspects of the climate. So during this research, I went to actually the place and I observed the human behavior and the space. So we'll show you that feeling secure is present due to the overlapping functions. The street provides opportunities to see due to its unhindered sightlines. And due to the surrounded buildings of 2 or 3 stories high, it's designed to human scale. And the existing canopy provides a shelter, so you can actually enjoy the positive aspects of the climate. So in the case of Haarlem, the focus shifts more on the left part. And as you can see, the different phase of the protection, comfort, and delight are more clearly visible, because I find out that it's really important to actually work like in the sequence of these phases. So the results of the field observations for all 12 quality criteria, I made a template, and in this template there is some space for notes and marks, which you can order for like surrounding streets. And you can also draw like the traffic flows, for example, in the map and the section of the street profile. And at the end, every criteria gets a grade, which is on a scale of 0 to 5. So at the end, when you observe all those quality criteria, filling in all those templates, made an overview of all the grades, and the 5 lowest one from like 0, 1, and 2 are classified as like the challenges for this place. So in the case of Haarlem, the 5 challenges are feeling safe, unpleasant sensory experiences, opportunities to sit, play, and exercise, and positive sensory experiences. And as I already mentioned, it's really important to actually follow the sequence. So the first step is actually to protect the people against traffic and unpleasant sensory experiences. So during my field observations, cyclists and pedestrians were crossing the road at several points, and that was resulting in really dangerous situations where people were standing in the middle of the road while a bus was approaching them. And one of the causes of this unsafe situation is the increasing number of 32 buses per hour. So therefore, 2 bus lines are diverted around the historic city center. And in addition, an elevated green avenue will be added, which is separating the slow and fast traffic from each other. And the existing canopy will be extended, so it's also preventing opportunities to protect people against unpleasant sensory experiences, such as rain or snow. So once people are protected, it's time to offer them comfort in the way of opportunities to sit, play, and exercise. So this green avenue is making 2 clear crossings, preventing people to cross the road at several points. And it's also creating space for opportunities to sit, play, and exercise. And at the moment, there are actually only outdoor surfing areas, which means that people need to use secondary seating opportunities, such as curbs, to sit on. So along this walking route, traditional benches, temporary art, and play invitations will be added. So the final step is the delight phase. And by offering them plants, trees, and water, they can actually enjoy the positive sensory experiences. And the next slide is a video where I show how you can implement those quality criteria outside but also inside the building. So the application to the case study of VND Haarlem shows the consideration of the user experience to redesign and reactivate vacant heritage and make citizens feel protected, comfortable, and delighted. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To keep on with our European travel and also educational background, We'll now listen to Milena Vukmirovic, who is an associate professor in urban design at Belgrade University in Serbia, and specifically in the School of Forestry. Yes, it's. So you were appointed also as an advisor to the Director of Urban Planning of the city of Belgrade for 3 years between 2015 and 2018. And you have co-authored international monography about Belgrade, the 21st century metropolis of Southeast Europe, that was published in 2020. And you're part of the Young Planning Academics and the Serbian Urban Planning Association. And also, I would finish with this, co-founder of the International Academic Conference. Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this introduction. I will start with my presentation. It's about populist distortion of the cultural heritage, and it was done with my colleagues from the University of Belgrade Faculty of Philosophy, Department of History, Professor Nikola Samardžić, and Associate Professor Haris Dajic. So we approach in this interdisciplinary and make this presentation and later the paper of this. So as well, I need to tell you this, that this project is also funded by the European Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. So I will start with Savski Square, which is our case study, where we want to show the relationship between the I think situation between social aspects and political aspects that both are involved in the development of this square. So it is connected with a very close central area of Belgrade. As well, it belongs to the wider zone of Sava Coast. It is one of two rivers that are related to Belgrade. Then it is placed between Belgrade Center area and Sava Mala as well, and on the other side the very controversial project Belgrade Waterfront, and also it is connected with this system of public spaces that are placed on the path which is connecting the Belgrade Fortress and the area in front of the St. Sava Square with the Nemanjina Street. This is the rose line which is connected. Considering the Belgrade plans and the history of this public place, you can see on the up level the Belgrade plans from 1893, then from 1912, and from 1923, and down this transformation of Savski Square. It was established after the construction of the railway station in 1984, and in the beginning of 1907, three French urbanists and architects and civil engineers was involved in generating this urban ambient of Belgrade. The first one is Charles Leroux. It was in charge of greening urban areas and squares. Then Edouard Léger. He was in charge of regulation, leveling, framing of streets and squares. And finally, Alban Chambon, who was in charge in overall urban planning of Belgrade in 1912. And the second one, Léger, has defined the present form of the square in 1911, and the primary and also the recent function of this square, it was the traffic function. On this slide, you can see the transformation on the aerial photos, the transformation of the square. As I said, it was predominantly traffic square that charged only in the field of regulation of traffic, the change, and areas for pedestrian as well vegetation and greenery from its beginning until 2019. and 2012. Sorry, in 2012, there it was realized the urbanistic architectural competition for the arranging part of the square surface with the proposal for the monument of the victims of the wars from 1990 to 1999. And 2 years after that, in 2014, the Belgrade waterfront plan was adopted. So that was the initiative from that big plan that was realized in the Sava coast. There became the initiative from the investor to also develop the square. And in 2015, the initiative came from that, and the reconstruction of Sava Square started a few years ago, with also urban and architectural competition for the reconstruction of all the area. And in 2021, Sava Square was open, even it was partially completed. It is still not completed, but there are some parts need to be finished. And it was developed on the first prize. It was an awarded project that was done through that competition. The project was done by FIA architects from Spain. And what is interesting in this domain, that the same architectural studio is involved in design of the national stadium in Serbia, also the one of the controversial projects that are actual right now. The second prize of the competition was by the Slovenian architect team, and the third prize was given to the studio that is also included in developing Sava waterfront area in the landscape domain. So the actual shape of and the function of the square, this is how it looks like right now. And what is the dominant element of the square is the monument of Stefan Nemanja. And also, but a year before the competition for the square, the competition for this sculpture was announced, and it was made in parallel with the square. Practically, the square was developed as a place for that monument, and not as an urban ambience, which is connected with other part, very important part of the city. So this is the illustration about the urban area. This is the square and the Nemanjina Street, and the semi-rounded square, which is developed by the French architects at the beginning of 20th century. Oh, sorry. Next, I will speak about the buildings on the square and the built heritage. I will start, as you can see, the most of the buildings are developed before the Second World War, and some of them are developed after the war in 1980. And there's few buildings that are planned to be constructed in the next period. The first building, which is important and which is the National Heritage Building, it was the building of the Central Belgrade train station. It is the building that was built in 1884, just after the first railway was introduced in Serbia. The concept of the building was designed by Austrian architect von Fatih, and design of Professor Dragutin Milutinovic, one of the professor of the great school in Belgrade. It was distinctly urban character, like those in largest European cities, and after the building was announced as a cultural monument of great value in 1983. The building was like this, and after its construction and along the period, it was not not reconstruction was done until now. Even some extension of the building. So until the 2020, after its renovation, it was totally devastated. It was renovated by the Institute of Urban Heritage of Belgrade. But what is interesting as the attitude between the square and the ambience of the square and the new elements of the urban areas with this building is that there is no connection, no access between the square plateau and the entrance of the building. Right now, even it is reconstructed in 2020, this building is empty. Even there are some proposal to place there the content of the Serbian Historical Museum. But before that, it was planned to be the railway museum, and after that, the technological museum. And right now, after the build of the Stefan Nemanja monument, it started to be an idea that this building will be the building of the Serbian National Museum. Then we have the Post building, built in 1928. It was built by architect Momir Korunjević, very famous, but that building was destroyed during the Second World War, and it was how it looked like. It was in Serbo-Byzantine style, and after that, because we had the communist regime after the Second World War, it was look like the picture on the left side. But now the political, the actual urban local authorities who are very involved, and politicians who are very involved in developing that square, wanted to give the view like it was before, but the Institute of Heritage Protection said no, that is not an opportunity. But what we are seeing in our newspapers, it's the picture on the down right side. Then we have a building of the actual special hospital for the treatment of cerebrovascular diseases, built in 1932, and now I think it is on sale. It was also one of the interesting building, especially in the relationship between the Serbia and Croatia during the ex-Yugoslavian state. Then the building of the Association of War Volunteers, and this is that building. It is mostly compromised because one of the contents in its ground floor was the cinema for the porn movies and something like that, and a lot of the locals on the ground area are almost used by some compromised groups of people, and from casinos and gamblings and etc. So and another building, it's the Hotel Petrograd, which is planned to be reconstructed, but had a superstructure on the facility, trying to give some view like it was when it was built in 1912. Also, what was interesting in relation to this square and its use, as I said, it was mostly the traffic square, and that kind of usement was defined the area as well. But at the beginning, when it was developed, it was the Woodrow Wilson Square as some kind of to express the relationship with Americans, which gave us the support after the First World War. Then it was during the Second World War, Serbian Square. After the Second World War, then it was the Square of Fraternity and Unity. And when the Fraternity and Unity disappeared, when the Yugoslavia disappeared, then in 1992 it started to be a Savski Square, but not on the as the name of the person, but the name of the toponym in Sava River. And as I said, the first reconstruction of the square was made in 2012, and it was developed as a place for the monument to the victims of war and defenders of the fatherland from 1920 to 1999. But after that, it was totally deconstructed and made a place after the competition for, as I said, the monument of the Stefan Nemanja monument. As you can see, the first initials of the first idea for the dimensions of that monument was, as I said, that a black figure, and the real dimensions of the monument are almost 50% larger than it was planned. You can see on the left, on the right picture, it is one of the local politician, which is one of the supporter for this kind of intervention. It is the monument. Also, the look of the monument was developed on the competition, but the winner was also controversial Russian sculptor Alexander Rukavishnikov, who some of the theorists asked them that he made the monuments which could be assigned as monumental propaganda, and Stefan Nemanja could be one of that. And also, this picture could be seen the attitude about the relationship of the building, of the historical heritage of the train station, and the new look of the new way of the using this square. And right now, almost this monument is seen as something which is, I think, the place for poor people, for people who are related to Orthodox religion, because this Stefan Nemanja was also a monk. And right now, this is an illustration of the area photo between the Sava Square and the new area where the Belgrade waterfront project will be built. And as I can conclude, but it is not related, it will be defined in our paper when we finish this research, that still what we have abroad and our opinion related to EU, that's our foreign politics. But in Serbia, as you can see, most are related to traditional values, to the relationship with Russia and everything like that. And so that is could be seen as some kind of political, as ontological influence of always actual Putin's Russia, which is not good. Also, we have through that monument that we said, victims of war and defenders of fatherland from 90s, and this is some kind of silent relativization of responsibility for war, aggression, crimes, herbicide, and genocide. And also that monument and its placement of the square could be seen as an ideological guidance from the same decade, with the aesthetic and ideological reliance on Putin Russia. So it's a little bit hard to explain how does it work. I choose this, but it was an urban and architectural approach I used to explain some relationship. But I think in our paper, not that I'm thinking, in our paper we will make it full connection with the symbolic values and also the narrative of the square, which was pushed in this way, in this transformation. So thank you.
Thank you very much to the three of you. We'll have some time for question and comments. Maybe there will be some question that will come from virtual connection, but if you want to comment or to raise some issues and questions, you're welcome. I may begin, but please. Okay, and please do introduce yourself when you speak.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the three of these presentations. I'm Dominique Van Este from the University of Leuven in Belgium. And I have a question for the first speaker, in a sense that it seems very interesting to me to move from archaeology into a management toolbox, a toolbox for urban planning. Only I do not see the connection with the participative approach. It's for management, for urban planning. Of course, nowadays urban planning cannot exist without the participative approach of the local population. You didn't mention that, and I'm curious how you link your management toolbox with this participative approach.
Thank you for your question. So we are actually developing this toolbox, and it's a challenge, of course, to build it. And we are working, each team is working on different tools that we are going to put together in this toolbox. And it's interesting because I'm actually working with Florence from more an archaeological perspective, and also with the University of Stirling for the participatory methods. And I think they linked very well for my experience. And because what we see also is that people are not so aware of historical layers or historical heritage. So archaeology in this case help to discover layers that can be source of heritage values that before we didn't capture. And also we work in a comparative method, in the same time also with participatory methods offline and offline to make these, to capture the values we already have on an urban site. And we, in different case studies, also to have comparable analysis and to link these methodologies together in the best way possible. And we are collaborating also with the stakeholders during our process. We will do a trial test of the toolbox before the official launch to give possibility to the stakeholders we are collaborating already in each of our case study to give feedback on what is valuable for them, what is actually practical for them to use in terms of participatory methods, but also archaeology. And the London team is building a system dynamic model that will bring together these participatory methods and also the archaeology all together to find which factor prohibits urban transformation, sustainable urban transformation through heritage. So it's a very, very team work in this toolbox, and as I mentioned, a challenge, but we are working all together and with the precious, as I mentioned, feedback of stakeholders that will we will drive them, but they will also drive us in building something that they will use, because this is the purpose. We want to give them a lot of tools, but a very big tool with all this methodology that interconnecting together. I hope I heard my response.
Yes, Miss, and then afterwards, yes.
My name is Ghislaine Glasson-Deschaumes from the University Paris-Nanterre. Many thanks to the three of you. It's very, very interesting. And I had two questions to you, Milena. The first one is related to the Savski Square. Did this square play a special role during the wars in former Yugoslavia? Was it a place for demonstrations against the war, or not at all?
No,
No.
it wasn't. It was totally a devastated area with the lower social people. It
Okay.
was just some kind of hub with a strong traffic and just the crossroad between the train station and the central area of the city. It was it didn't have any identity before now, except the building of the train station.
Okay, so my second question is, of course, this big sculpture of
Stefan
Stefan
Nemanja.
Nemanja reminds me of the big cross in Vukovar on the Croatian side, which means that the public space is really stamped by religion and by the religious instrumentalization of public space. And I was wondering if there's any attempt to develop a counter-use of this square by activists,
At the counter use, we will see what happened. As you conclude very well, that very strong religion identity was given to this square, as I show on one of the last picture. It is as the proposal of the first prize and the developer of the square from Spain. It is imagined as a square for different kind of events, from the screen playing to another things, to gathering for some very important national days, etc. But right now it is the place for, as you said, religionary people and very poor lower social level people, and it is some kind of contrast. Before the renewal of the square, the lowest levels of the society was gathered there, because, as I said, in some of the buildings were the porn movie cinema, then the casinos and gambling zone, and some prostitutes were around, and it was totally devastated, and it had that kind of identity. And right now that monument gave the new, I think, identity, which is not belong to that place, because it has to be the place which is showing our renewal orientation to the Europe, to modernity, to contemporary period, and not to some medieval figures that are related to the founding of the state. Even in that period, the state that founder was helped by the Byzantia and Western people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Zoltán Krasznai. I work for the European Commission in Brussels on the Horizon Europe program. Thank you very much for the presentations. It was very interesting, and a very interesting comparison of different approaches to historical urban heritage. And I'm just wondering, and I'm addressing my question to all the three presentators, whether there is a sort of a new political divide in approaching urban cultural heritage, because in the first two presentations we've heard about sustainability and community-based ecological approaches to the reuse and understanding of different historical layers, while in the case of Serbia, and as Hungarian I'm quite familiar with this development, we have the feeling that political authority is reinvesting historical built heritage or imagined heritage as well. Is there a sort of a new phenomenon that would be interesting to be analyzed at a comparative level between Western and Eastern, Southern and Northern parts of Europe, or it is something very peculiar to Serbia? All three of you. Thank you.
For the Serbia, the political influence is very strong, as you can see there, and there is we have some kind of opponents for that, and activists there are some also the opponents in political way, but also some activists. But this kind of project, as I said, the Belgrade Waterfront project was controversial because it was developed by Aleksandar Vučić as our president, and it was placed as a must project and also legally defined as a must project because it will develop our, I don't know, country and economy and everything through this. From another side, everything, we don't have a strategy, a state strategy for the preservation of heritage. It was recently some conference initiated by the Institute for the Heritage Protection, which is a very good institution, but it works as it has no sound and voice at all. There was a conference between urbanists and the heritage preservators, and they made a dialogue and discussion about how to co-work together because nobody listened to anybody, just some puts in some documents which are the must. So, and the political influence and also investors' influence to the politicians is very, very, very strong. And so if we didn't find as you said, if we have good examples from the EU, and if we are oriented to the countries which have much experience in this, and try to implement some of their experience in our country, I think it will be a good way. But another one will be devastated for us. We are always on the two chairs between the West and the East. So, and I will give it so.
Yeah, well, in the Netherlands it's a different story. I think it's more structured and organized by like an organization for like the whole country. And we already have like some really good examples, for example, in Amsterdam. So in this case, if you look at the square in Haarlem, they're like really looking for the examples in Amsterdam, which is working, what do people like, so the user experience of that. But at the end, it's the investors that make the decision. And I think for the political thing, it's only like the municipality will approve like the plan or the idea. But it's more about the investments and the organization of like the whole country.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but unfortunately I have nothing more to add because I have no experience in our case study. As far as I know, we have not encountered this kind of political issues. And maybe we have, but I can't say more at the moment because I don't want to say things that are not correct. So sorry for that.
Are there other questions? Yes.
Hello, Sinbad Amash. I'm a journalist for Le Journal des Arts. A question to Milena Vukmirovic. Your presentation reminded me of something I read about Viktor Orban's plans for in Budapest, where he's, I don't know if you heard about this, where he's reconstructing an historical neighborhood, taking reference into a supposed glorious past. So I was wondering if you knew this case study and if it was a good comparison to your case study in Savsky Square.
I'm sorry, I didn't heard about that, but as you said, it could be very good comparative study with the situation which is happening in Belgrade, and also it could be put also on a political level because Orban and Vučić are very close friends, and Hungary is and what's happening there is also present us as a good example, even it is not. So, thank you.
Hello. Just a comment about the impressive case of fake heritage to rebuild the city or to make the city following a political program. No. There is a very just to share with you that because there is a very interesting case. Probably you know about it. Is Skopje is the capital of North Macedonia. I was impressed when I was there 2 years ago. So according to a political program, they rebuilt the city center using a kind of neoclassical pastiche, supposedly inspired in the brilliant times of Alexander the Great. So it's astonishing. Program. So the way in the city they change this falsification of heritage and the wrong way to make the city was a political change in the municipality, not at the national level, and the strong opposition from the academic world. So your world, your paper, your presentation is valuable to make things change that way.
Yes, we hope so. Thank you very much. I know a lot of the project Skopje 2014, and what is some anecdote from the when it was some meeting of the mayors of the Western Balkans, and there were the representatives from Zagreb and Ljubljana, and there were two presentations, one from Skopje and another from Ljubljana. And as I said, I was worked in the office of the director of urban planning in the domain for public spaces, and after that we were surprised about the Ljubljana placemaking and involved the citizens and the great public spaces and everything, ecologically eco-friendly and everything. And our mayor and political was impressed by the Skopje. We want Skopje. That is beauty and everything. We said, oh my God, what's going to happen now? But in Belgrade, it's a mix between something contemporary and something that you said renewed heritage and renewed history and everything. This story is very interesting. It's very provocative, and that is what we wanted to present. And I said, I hope our paper will be interesting as well, because there are a lot of layers I try to present in this presentation. But that phase of developing the square, but that phase of the competition for the monument, and after that the building phase and the problem with the money spending on that. We don't know, the citizens of Belgrade don't know what amount of money was spent to that monument, and everything is very complex and layered. Also, we have the as I said, the opponents for that, such groups and people made demonstration, but it is not strong enough to build. But in April we will have at the beginning of April we will have elections, and we will see what's going to happen. So thank you very much.
Yes, Mrs.
Thank you. The questions about this divide between heritage used and influenced by political purposes on the one hand, and then the more sustainable managing of space on the other hand, provoked another question for me, which is particularly oriented towards Haarlem and Florence. It's not political, but I saw there in Haarlem you talked about a department store, which might refer to consumerism consumerism and the development of consumerism in society. On the other hand, the Florence case, you mentioned the Fiat factory and what remains and does not remain from the Fiat factory. So I was wondering if in your cases something symbolic was there still left, and if this has a relationship with identity.
So yes, is the things I was mentioning. Of course, we have the Fiat. We had the Fiat factory in our case study in Florence, and there is also a temporary use of some spaces in that area during the fascist period, and a lot of buildings that are still named as fascist, or the House of Duce, or other kind of things. So it's actually things that we are valuing, but as I say before, are things that we are still processing the data, and I'm not able to give you a more precise insight from this point of view of this could be a political issues, or a political issues that can explain why certain urban transformation have been done in the past. But yes, unfortunately, I'm not now in the position to add more, but it's something that for sure we will considering also for our toolbox, because of course there are not societal issues, but there are political issues as we've seen today, and different values that we need to consider that are in the game.
Yeah, in the case of Harlem, it was a really symbolic thing, because it's a part of a whole chain. So the V&D department stores were all over the Netherlands, more than 100 of those department stores. So a lot of people has not only like tangible but also intangible. You know, they have like those memories in this department store. And as I mentioned before, it was a part of the community because it was a carrying point for the community. So that's actually the reason why I want to give it back as a public space, because that's, even it was private, it was experienced as public due to the community.
So maybe I may enjoy the few last minutes we have to ask my questions to you. I had two questions actually. One that is very broad and relates to the topic of the conference. Do you feel, on the basis of your backgrounds and professional experience, that you speak a common language, coming from different countries with different issues and so on? Is there a European way of approaching, so to speak, your topics? And my second question relates to the palimpsest you mentioned, or the historical layers you mentioned, and which are obvious in your presentation. I was curious about the way decision makers and urban planners welcome this care for preserving, showing this palimpsest dimension of heritage and architecture. And districts also. Sorry, it's okay.
Yes, so I reply to your second question, and the stakeholders are reacted very well. In particular, as I mentioned also in my presentation, the municipality of Florence already asked us to replicate these methodologies in other area of Florence. And so it's having a great impact, but I can speak also for the other stakeholders, because we already met him during some workshop and meetings, and they are welcoming our suggestions and our toolbox, and they looking forward to have this toolbox available. Because as I already mentioned, it's a combination of methods that work well together through sustainable new layers. So we have a palimpsest, but we have to add new layers. So how put this palimpsest in the futures, and how add sustainable layers that considering all the things we talk today.
Well, if I would start with the first question, I think that, well, we showed actually 3 different ways how to approach it. So I think that's the answer of the questions that, yeah, we have a different background, and that's why we are approaching it in a different way. So maybe we can collect that and to develop like a European way, and we can learn from each other. So the second question, I think in the case of the Netherlands, the historical layers are really respected and preserved in the building scale. But if we look at like an urban scale, for example, the public spaces, I think it can be better, because nowadays if you walk on the street, or if you walk, for example, for the square in Haarlem, I didn't know that it was a canal, and it used to be like a square with monumental trees, and then what happened. So I think in that way we can develop the way that we are preserving those historical layers and building more for the public spaces as well.
As I said, this collaboration with and strong experience from the West, it is very, and especially from the Europe, and involvement in the Horizon project from our side is very important, because you see right now one case study as I present where we can see a very strong political influence from, but from the other side, our local authorities are support one of the Horizon 2020 project, which is implemented right now, and it is called Clever City, and it is made one of the biggest urban labs, city labs in Belgrade, Bell Lab, based on the citizen involvement in developing the project of Line Park, which is go through the coastal area on Danube, and that kind of experience is very, very good for us. So I think the culture, the topics, and from the culture and from the science which this conference is connected to, are very important to us as well. We want to share our experience, because some of our experience could be used in other country, even if it's not good. But you can see the other issues exist as well, and how we can develop it, and we can learn a lot from you, and I think that is a good point. And science and culture are really, really good platforms for exchanging the ideas, because if we go on economical and other levels, I think we need stronger support. But on these levels we can connect. Even the culture and science are the platforms where we firstly connect with our opponents from the Slovenia, from the Bosnia, from Croatia, and we're connected because we don't have a confrontation, but on political level there are still something. You understand what I want to say. And from our side, I think that there is an importance of cultural heritage, especially from the generating of the identity and the strong and state and cities and society, I think. But in our country, it is on the margin, as I can say, because the cultural budget in our state is very very low as well for science, and that's the problem. And our institutions are not connected, as I said, and also we have problems that we don't have any strategies or plans how to preserve that. So we need to start from the beginning, as I said. So thank you very much.
So thank you. I think we can applause. Our 3 speakers, thank you very much, Elisa, Rachel, and Milena. Again, before I free you, I have 2 messages from the organizers of the conference. First, for those who have a participant or speaker ID card. You must keep it for tomorrow. It's the same that will be used in the National Library. And there is a coffee break right now.